I like how you're calling it a shooter's life.
I'm sorry. So, hello and welcome, everyone. I will give everyone a couple more seconds because we all know technical stuff, etc. So, I will just use the time. You can always go back and start from the beginning. You can, hit pause and then we'll be able to watch it later on again, etc. And I just wanted to say you can always send us questions here in the chat. You can also send us questions on LinkedIn. So wherever you see us at the moment, wherever you're coming to us at the moment, you can send us those questions. And as long as we're live, we're happy to answer them. So I am Julia, and I'm very happy that you are here today. I am the founder of Unwind Your Mind, and Unwind Your Mind is something that I created. And the mission of Unwind Your Mind is actually the name. I want people to unwind their minds. I want them to, or I want us all to really unlearn things and behaviors. And I want us to relearn certain things and behaviors because that is so utterly important these days. And I have a very, very amazing guest today. Nina is with me, and I want to give her the opportunity to introduce her. And Nina, hi.
Hi, hello. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be here with you to talk to you. And also, as you said before we talk, to have a little small talk with you about big things, and also over coffee to just kind of feel like we just talk. Thank you very much. I very much resonate with your mission. I feel like I think I had the sessions in the past in my previous companies, which were also called very similar. So that's also quite a nice connection. I work in the field of human and organizational development. So I'm also trying to help organizations and people relearn new things and unlearn things which don't work, and maybe they are hindering them in their development. I work as a trainer for leadership skills and for teams as well, and for team skills. So I work a lot in the HR environments for people. And at the moment, I work for Redcare Pharmacy as their trainer and also their person for learning and development, especially in the product department. So, a lot. Also, I wrote myself a little note. I don't want to forget that I'm also making music. So that I usually forget that. So that's a part of me as well.
Thank you. And it's always so amazing to hear, other people introduce themselves. So I always love if everyone is doing it him or herself, because it's just, interesting because we usually see ourselves in a different way. And I think this is giving us the perfect bridge to, start that conversation. Nina and I, we were chatting about mental health. Today is Mental Health Day. And then in the end, we came up with the idea to just sit together and talk about that topic, mental health. And Nina told me a story, and I really loved the story in itself because it just is supporting everything I do on a daily basis. She was explaining how she was talking to other people about, experiencing anxiety, panic attacks, etc., and that it was interesting for her to see how those people reacted. And maybe, Nina, you want to, maybe tell the story again or explain a little bit more what we then talked about and what was so amazing also to you to learn, for you to learn.
Where to start? I also, okay, so let's start from the end. What was interesting to learn was that when I start to talk about it, I discover colleagues, I discover people around me who connect and who have similar situations, who experience similar feelings, and or who might feel that, oh wow, I was never really thinking about it in this way as you do, and this is giving me some knowledge, some insight. And that's for me quite a big discovery in many ways. And not that I didn't know that anxiety is the only, or that I thought that anxiety is the only my case. Of course, I knew that it's a lot of people. It kind of feels very good and connected, and suddenly that anxiety becomes something what is not you, and you don't become connected to that much when you realize that, Julia, you may be experiencing it, maybe 30 other people are experiencing, my friends, and everyone has some sort of, or not everyone, but many people have some sort of connection to anxiety, and we all experience it in a slightly different way in different times, but we all share that, and it already feels like, oh, I'm not alone in this. It's not just my sickness or something special. And as you said, it is special, but at the same time, it's something what we share. So that's why I wanted to shed a little bit of light on this part. But also, I want to talk to you about how to deal with this, right? Is this possible to talk about it today? Also, like how to, that we talk about what anxiety, maybe how it can be experienced, but also I'm super interested in some ways and some maybe rituals how to maybe finish the day when you are like super stressed. So this was
Absolutely.
maybe last thing that I closed is that this was one thing which I experienced a lot in my environment at work, was that people don't know how to close, how to finish, so they keep going, and that's kind of my inner agenda for today.
I think that's a very common thing, and I think this is also something when we tend to oversimplify, because we think once we close the laptop, for those of you who are working in front of a laptop, then everything is done, but it's rather not the case, like usually it's just not like that we push a button and be like, okay, now we're off. We continue to think about those things, and we overthink, and then we spiral maybe downwards. And even with the whole situation that is currently going on, I mean, like over the weekend, so many things happened, and then everything just went kind of sideways. And I think that is very important to address, and we can definitely go into that direction. I just wanted to add one minor thing. What I think is very important to understand is that I personally believe that we all were once, at least, in a situation where we felt completely exhausted, or, just we can't continue. And that doesn't mean that we, have issues in a way, that we have problems. So it's very important how we label certain things, and that we try to understand that our mind in general is working against us. So our mind wants us to be safe. It wants us to save energy, to save resources, to survive, right? So it initially wants us to be safe in general all the time. So when we think about that and we see in the external perception, once you have a mental health issue, once you have a mental health condition, then you're somewhat crazy or so, right? Like there is this certain image we have in our mind, and that is a thing that is kind of blocking us from really going further into that topic. There's also a lot of people in my stress management workshops who can kind of come to me and are like, if you're stressed, then you're really weak, right? Because you cannot deal with that whole situation. And I have that quite a lot. And it's kind of sad, because it's normal. Stress is a really, really cool reaction our body has. And it's important to understand that, right? It doesn't make you crazy. It doesn't make you sick. It's a normal reaction. But if we continue to let it happen, if we continue to let ourselves spiral, if we're not able to switch off in the evening, then it can become a bigger problem, because in the end, we're going to take all of the resources our body and our system has. And if we're not focusing on sleep, etc., then our bodies, they cannot regenerate. And it's so important. So this is me trying to, kind of have the finger up here and say, like, first of all, stop labeling and creating definitions. I have that, so I don't have that, and vice versa, because that's not about it. what is more important to understand is that you understand, it's about what you feel, it's about what you experience, not what someone on social media or elsewhere experiences or is telling you. It's what you experience, and that's the only thing that matters, right? We're all individuals and we promote diversity, so we really should stand behind that. So that's the first thing. Get in contact with yourself and understand your own triggers, your own experiences, your own emotions. And then we can go on to Nina's hidden agenda and talk about the creation of routines, or why it is so hard to really switch off in the evening. So why is that for you, maybe?
I have some observations collected over the years and days and nights and mornings, and uh, it's connected to what you were mentioning. Actually, I did a little research. I always do a little research, which is also sometimes stressing me out, but that's kind of the way. I found out that this is called, or someone, there are some sisters who did the research on this, and they're actually called Sisters Nagoski. And these sisters wrote about it. They call it the stress cycle, and closing it or not closing it, you probably know. And there is a word which I really like. It's called surge capacity. And this word surge capacity means something like a set of adaptive systems. The thing what you said, the high adrenaline, the heartbeat. The thing what you said, that our mind is actually, I think I said it's working against us, but you also said that it's actually working for us because it wants us to survive. It wants us to survive some in the past. Thousands of years ago, we wanted to survive some terrible beast or some fight with someone. And these days, it's a call or it's a talk, it's a presentation, it might be interview. Those things are for us now as stressors, and our brain, of course, reacts like that, right? So we get this like high adrenaline. We feel this is what we call, I call it anxiety, right? Like, I feel like I'm getting like really nervous, and I literally feel like so much energy inside me, but I'm sitting, right? So you are like ready to run, you are ready to, I don't know, maybe I'm ready to talk for all kinds of people, but they are not here, they are behind the glass, and I'm sitting. And it's always, I feel like, oh, when I started to observe this, it's a lot of body energy inside, which we then build up over the day if we don't do this, what you mentioned, if we don't relax, if we don't put our nervous system down. So this is my biggest learning so far, is that, as you mentioned, every nervous system is different. So we of course can learn from each other, but we all react differently. So as I'm quite sensitive person in general, I believe my nervous system is sensitive as well. So I react very sensitively to everything, and I need to work with that. And in this case, I need to rest a lot, which I don't do. So because I was brought up in the systems which are supporting performance, and I work in performance valued systems and organizations, I tend to be driven or being in an environment which is kind of driving you to perform, right? It means also many meetings. It can mean a lot of production. It can mean a lot of whatever, lot of. And this creates a really highly active nervous system, and this kind of stress response is, let's say, all the time there. If we go from one meeting to another, if we do a lot of kind of activated talks, or maybe tasks, or you kind of work one thing after another, you have to do one thing, then you have to do another thing. So all this is, the nervous system is up. And what I learned, of course, from my experience, but also from the sisters and from working with nervous system, is that it's quite easy, that you should bring it down. you should do something to relax, to bring this stressor down in the way that in the past it would be, you finish the run from the tiger, and you are like, whew, I survived. And now you are like, maybe even this like, whew, it's already a good thing. And then you sit a little bit, maybe you keep a bit of thoughts. There are these rituals which you then need to do. And this is already bringing this circle It's closing the stress circle, and we can again face another meeting or face another tiger. It's not bad, as you mentioned, that stress is good, but we just need to give ourselves a little bit of break to recharge. Yeah. And I haven't done it in the past much. That's why I ended up having burnout at some point. Yeah.
And I think this is like, first of all, thanks for sharing. And second of all, I think this is what you could experience as a person who's maybe listening to us, right? It can also be that you're not really able to make any decisions anymore, or that all of a sudden everything is too much, or that at some point you're just standing there and be like, what would I wanted to do again? And that even though that there are certain things that you really like, that all of a sudden you're like, I don't care about them. You know, it's like, and that you kind of really withdraw from reality and be like, leave me alone. Like, it has so many different layers, and we cannot comprehend, all of it at the same time. What we need to really understand is that our system is a very complex system. It's not something we can explain in a black or white option. It's not something we can put in a black or white box, and we cannot say this is right, this is wrong for everyone, because we're individuals. And I think this is something we tend to forget. And this is also what I mean with that our brain is working against us, because our brain wants to simplify everything, and it just wants to say, this is good, this is bad. But then again, it works also for us because it wants to protect us, right? It wants us to survive. It just maybe has also a different agenda, a hidden agenda. And I think it's important to understand that this is the case, and that you then can act accordingly. What we had in the past, or what I also saw in different workshops, is that people then come to me and be like, Julia, I figured it out. I know that I need to do sports, I need to work out, and that I have my checklist, and I just cross every item off my checklist. And I still kind of crushed at some point. I was unable to continue. And all of a sudden, I kind of lost my joy, etc. This happens also because what we then start doing is, this is a safe place. I only need to do X, Y, Z, and then everything is going to be fine. I will prevent burnout from happening. I will prevent mental unhealth from happening, etc. Right? But that's not the thing. You want to build resilience. Even if you have a moment when you are in a restaurant, you don't know what to take, if you are unable to decide, or if you come home, you snap at your loved ones, or whatever it is that has happened to you or with you, this can happen. It's not a problem. Resilience, what we're talking about, is that we're able to adapt in every situation, and that we don't go with our initial triggers, that we let the triggers decide our behavior for us, but rather that we maybe get triggered. So we have that situation and we're like, wait a moment, this is what is happening usually. So now I decide consciously in which direction I want to go. You can always decide, okay, I want to sit in a car and I want to cry right now. Fine. And then you can put it all the way back together and be like, okay, now it's out, now it's gone, now I'm fine. Can be. Doesn't have to be. It always depends on how good you are to balance, not how good you are, how advanced you are in, balancing the nervous system. I do it every single day. I try to do it every single hour. I go with my breath. I check in with myself. When I started Unwind Your Mind, it was a horrible experience for me to, be in an unknown situation, and still is to this day. Building a company is very hard. And there are situations where like, oh my God, why did I start this? It always comes to that. But then I know it's important to have those routines. It's important to have those rituals. When I started building my company, I said, I want to build it in a mindful way. People started laughing at me because for them, their perception is starting a business is hard. So you're going to work 24 hours a day and you will never sleep. And I tried to find a different framework that works for me. That means I wake up early. I have my morning routine. It's quite long. I go for an hour walk with my dog, and I try to meditate. I try to, move, etc. And only then I start my day. There are days where I have to go and travel, etc. And I try to squeeze other things in because I know I have a toolbox. And every day is different. And because of us living in the VUCA world, it's important that we have a resilience. It's not that we follow our routines every single day. They can help you to create a safe environment so that your brain is satisfied and will leave you alone. But that's not the reality. The reality is that everything is changing constantly, rapidly, etc., and that we want to build a certain level of resilience so that we're able to kind of adapt in every single situation. So taking routines is something very, very helpful. And if you have been experiencing that you cannot shut off your brain after work, find something, at least, or several things. Find things that help you. That can mean meeting friends, cooking dinner, working out, going for a walk, going meet some, other people that you want to help, people who don't have a roof over their head, or maybe going to rescue an animal or help in an animal rescue station, whatever. There's so many different things that you can do. Just really focus on them and try to figure out, okay, what are things that really help me to switch off? And then start planning it. Be very, very detailed when you start planning that, and really sit down on a Friday or a Saturday, Sunday even, and plan the following week. Give yourself some safety measures in a way, right? Create that framework that works for you, only for you. It doesn't matter what your mother will say. It doesn't matter what your, whoever is in your life and is usually telling you, that, is kind of BS. What is important is that you really figure out what works for you, and that you then start planning it accordingly, and that you really start building it up step by step. It can be a very, very little thing that you start focusing on your breath whilst you are brushing your teeth in the morning, in the evening. It can be that you start journaling. It can be that you start, being really fully present when you take a shower or when you prepare your coffee or your tea. It can be that you prepare your food in a mental way, that you stop watching whatever streaming there is whilst eating, etc. There are very, very many different things. What you just need to do is really take them and start building routines around them, and then see what it does to your life. If it is improving the quality of your life or not. It's really hard to say this is the one thing that will help you to shut off after work, right? Because we're different, and it's just important to understand how our brain works, and that we need to become active. So there's no one from the outside who will give you a hand and be like, those are all the benefits we have, great. Then you maybe decide, okay, this is the right employer for me because they have all those amazing benefits. But in the end, the benefits will just sit there if you don't really take them, and if you don't really do something with them, right? And if you don't want to do yoga, okay, fine. But maybe there's something else you want to do in general. Yeah. Is that kind of answering your question, and also kind of, satisfying your hidden agenda in a way?
I think not, actually. I must say that I think we are not there, but it's more interesting. It's interesting to hear as well, as you said, that it's always interesting to hear different opinions. So this is, I feel like I'm a collector now of different approaches.
Mm-hmm.
And what you mentioned about the planning, that's really interesting to think about it, or to even like think about it from my perspective. And I can totally imagine that it works for many people. For me, planning is more stressful. So this is for if I would do now my strict plan for every day what I should do. This is this I observed that can have actually opposite effects. So this is actually proving, maybe even the thing what you mentioned, that we have all different nervous systems and different approaches. And for some people, planning works. I know that planning works when we are really stressed, that our amygdala works very well with planning, that we can kind of like write down the lists. And I'm a person who writes millions of lists. I have so many notes in lists. But I must say that I feel the best when I'm free of them. So when I decide that, okay, now because of my work is a lot of lists and a lot of writing down, and I create a lot of let's say nervous system activation. For me, if I want to deactivate it or going down and make it, maybe give a system a sign that I'm safe, because this might, if I work with this idea that this is about my nervous system or my brain getting message, you are not safe, run, escape, go away, fight, or stay, I don't know, stuck. I need to give my brain sign that everything is fine and I'm okay. So what I do, or what I learned from some coaching and training with the nervous system, was that what helps is actually to look around, and it's very basic thing that you sit. You don't have to sit still, but it's more like you look around and you kind of mention, okay, there is a plant, here are books, another plant, more books, window, and you kind of go around and you kind of check for yourself, slowly follow your eyes, and it feels weird, but later on it kind of calms down my brain, it calms down my breath. That works. Or things like
How often do you
touching
do that?
something. Mm, Actually, it's good to anytime I remember. So always kind of, or always when I realize that, okay, now I'm in kind of a very stressful situation and I need to bring down my nerves or my kind of energy.
How did you come to the conclusion that you are aware of this nervous system, and how did you figure out, okay, this is a trigger, now I'm stressed?
I feel it. I feel I feel my heart. I feel like my brain or my thoughts are really fast, and I have suddenly like a lot of kind of thoughts, but also I feel a lot of pressure here on my chest, and I just feel like, oh my God, it's like kind of, it happens, for example, before something happens, right? Like an
Yeah.
anticipation of something. As we talked at the beginning, before our talk, it's also a little bit like, oh, I feel really weird and nervous and everything. So this is it. It's then when we jump in, I think voice is helping to relax that as well. So when I speak out loud, or when you speak and someone else, so it's that's calming down. Also things like touching surface, or maybe standing a little bit with my feet. Also, what helps is that I jump. I just go up. I don't sit. So this, what I talked about, is energy. When I started to think about it, that okay, this is not me, it's just energy inside me which needs to get out, I just go and do some crazy movement and jump, or go for a run in the morning, as you mentioned with I think with some of your clients, that there's kind of physical activity. And what was interesting, what you mentioned, cry, because this is first from these Nagoski sisters. They also say that what you can do is cry. That helps, I think,
Yeah.
release, maybe. Yeah.
I just wanted to add to that before we're maybe also wrapping up. You did talk about the same thing as I, and you just didn't call it planning because you're at a different level. Most people are not aware. Most people don't know their triggers. Most people don't know the difference when they're stressed and when they're not. Most people don't know what to do then, but you do. And you have figured out your system already. You know what is helping you in what moment. But there is a lot of people, and I'd say the majority, that are not at that place. And this is why I'm saying planning can help, because most people are like, breathing doesn't work for me. Meditation doesn't work for me. Yoga doesn't work for me. Whatever you call it, you name it. Most people just put it again in a black or white box and are like, this doesn't work for me, but it does. The important thing is figure out what is stressing you, of course, but also what is helping you. And the breath is the easiest tool available to you that it's for free. And you can take it and you can do it every single day. Conscious breathing, conscious breath work. And, at a planning stage and level, doing it 3 times a day, morning, lunchtime, evening, and helping your nervous system to balance. And most people cannot just, think about that and then do it. What most people do is like, oh yeah, Julia said something like that, but, like in the end, like, and then they're like, but we're conditioned in a certain way. I just take a pill and everything is going to be fine. But this is not how it works. Like we're 30, 40, whatever years old, and we were conditioned in a certain way. So we can't expect our nervous system to function in a certain way that we're able, like, okay, I know I have all the tools and I can now balance myself out. We're not there yet, right? Most people need to experience that. Maybe for some people it's not the breath, maybe for some people it's really going for a run, although there's also studies that in the end show going for an active thing like going running, etc., is just reducing your hormones, the stress hormones. They need a way out of the body, the body energy, but that doesn't mean that you have been balancing your nervous system.
That's a good point. Yeah, I can imagine that you actually really run what your body wants you to run.
Yeah.
You really run.
Yeah.
But then still your nervous system, I can imagine, is quite high, so you still need to do. So what is this? Maybe what would be one thing what you would suggest for also people in our Redcare Pharmacy and all kinds of people who are listening? What would be maybe one thing what they can implement already today after they finish and tomorrow and tomorrow and blah, 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 and every day? What would be one thing they could do?
Yeah. So we're going to do a breath work session together. It's just a tiny little thing. Everyone can do it. And this is also part of the planning, because if you're just like me and if you're like a person, my past version, I always said meditating isn't for me, yoga isn't for me, etc. Now I'm a yoga teacher. Now I'm all that, and have been doing a lot of trainings. And but it helps to really plan and to really start doing it, and practice over time will really help you, that you then can just push the button and be like, okay, now everything is fine. And maybe for you, it's also what Nina said, looking around or touching things can all help, definitely. But we will take the breath, because this is something no one can see from the outside. No one can say, hey, do you have nothing to do? You're looking around. Or what is it that you're touching your phone all the time, right? The breath is a tool that you can use while no one will notice it. So what I want you,
I have one thing before we go to this. One super last one is that I wondered how do we know that our nervous system is regulating? How do we know that we are on the way down instead of on the way up?
It's the same what you said already. So when we're stressed, we're breathing shallow. We're like, our heart is faster, right? Because when we're stressed, our body is preparing us for the fight or flight response. So we definitely have to run. Our systems are getting cut off. We're kind of really, prepared to either fight or to run. And when it's going down, you will notice, because then your heart is beating slower. You also are able to breathe deeper. This is why, people in movies always give those bags that you breathe in the bag, so that you just have something to focus on. And you will see that everything is dialing down. Everything is kind of widening, because when you're stressed, you focus on one thing. You have that tunnel vision. You're like, oh my God. And you can't see what is happening around you. But once you're relaxed, you're like, okay. So this is really helpful. And you will notice. It's also just do a call outside walking. You will see that even though if someone is screaming at you, you're like, okay. I'm fine. Because what you do is like you have your body in motion and you're signaling your body everything is fine. And when you then also constantly breathe into your belly, you signal your body everything is fine, everything is cool. I know my game. Yeah. So the breath is really the thing. So you either can sit, you can also stand up, whatever you like. And then if you're standing, just try to like equal your weight in both of your feet. And if you're seated, maybe take an upright position, yeah, so that the spine is growing long. You can also rotate your shoulders a little bit, everything that you feel is necessary right now. And then you, if you want and if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. And you do a simple check-in with yourself. So what is it you feel? What is it you observe? And then you exhale. And then you inhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. Exhale, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out, 2, 3, 4, 5. In, out. In, out. In, out. In, out. 2, 3, 4, 5. In, out. In, out. 2, 3, 4, 5. In, 2, 3, 4, 5. Out. In, out. In, last one. Out. 2, 3, 4, 5. Return to normal breathing and just observe. Try to do this as many times as possible. Maybe you find the time, or maybe you plan the time to do this 5 minutes in the morning, 5 minutes during lunch, and 5 minutes in the evening. The more often you do that, the more it will become a routine and the more easier it will be for you at a certain point to really balance the nervous system by clicking a certain button, because you have access to your different systems and because then you know how to really balance it out. Okay, thank you everyone for joining. Thank you that you've been here. Thank you for being my guest. Thank you for being open and curious and sharing all of your stories. We were a little longer than expected, but I hope that was okay for everyone. Yeah, and if you have any questions, you can always contact us, and we're very happy to have you. And we're very, kind of pleased and passionate about the topic. So really, let's make mental health an everyday topic. Really focus on one another, be kind to one another, especially in those times, but in general, every single day, because we all know in a world where you can be everything, be kind.